process next week. We're going to actually survey you all at the end of next week, and we need your honest feedback in terms of what's worked, what's been frustrating, what have you desired that we haven't provided, and make sure to send that to us. And we'll continue to course correct as we go along. But we think we have a really robust program ready to roll out for you. And this social emotional piece is part of what we're trying to do as well. So with that, I'll stop and we'll get to the important stuff, which are your questions. So Jeff, back to you.
Thanks, Adam. The chat button is actually a great piece. I'm sorry I missed it. And so you can see that Trudy Davis sent a great chat in there already and got us started. And if parents want to add questions there, please feel free to do it that way. So Polly, back to you, or Laura, or Trudy, any thoughts before the parents start asking their questions?
So I guess the one thing, and we don't need to rehash the video that Jeff, Laura, and I made, but I think one of the things that it would be interesting for me to hear is to get a sense as to what you are hearing from your children, what you are seeing in your children. We spoke a little bit about ways of communicating with children. We spoke a little bit about things you might see in your children, either you know, an increase in the anxiety, an increase in behavior and irritability, being cooped up for long periods of time in all of us brings out some different types of behaviors and emotions. So I'd be curious to hear a little bit from parents as to what you're experiencing at home, and you know, if you do have you know, things you would like to hear more about. And if not, you know, we can continue to dialogue and, you know, throw some different topics back and forth. Hi, Jamie. Does it call it 10 for 6th grade? Will it be somewhat similar? Jeff? People are asking if the 3 through 5, 6 through 8, and then 9 through 12 calls will be held somewhat similarly, meaning parent feedback and parent input.
Yeah, the idea is to have, again, a very similar approach to all of these, which is, you know, as I said earlier, an Adam Rohde town hall. My guess is that the way that they'll differ is that some of the things that we may be seeing, some of the concerns that may present themselves will look different. Even the way that we end up dealing with certain things. So for example, talking to a student who's in nursery or 1st grade, the way that we talk to them looks very different than how we might talk to a high school kid who's dealing with the same types of anxieties. You know, even physically, we're probably going to get down on their level. We'll be down on one knee. We want to be eye to eye with a really young child. And with a high school kid, sometimes they don't like sitting straight across from us and having eye to eye conversations. So, you know, there, the example is get in your car, go for a car ride. They don't even have to look at you, but they can't escape. So you got them in the car and you can have that conversation with them. Go for a walk. Again, no eye to eye contact. So what the difference will be how we approach certain things with different age students, which is why we wanted to developmentally break this up into different age ranges and different grades.
So I see a couple different questions that are popping up. One is, and Trudy, maybe this is something you want to touch on. Somebody's asking what they can expect to receive from the lower elementary teachers beginning next week. How long will it take for you know, the teachers to execute their plan? How can parents be planning for their days? Maybe you want to address some of the remote learning concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, I can't see those questions coming up, but I can certainly go into that a little bit. And we're going to be having a lot more information coming your way. Every homeroom teacher is going to be sending an email at the end of this week, just telling you what they're doing. They're also going to phone every parent over the next 2 weeks so that you have a chance to just talk about your child and what you're seeing and your concerns. And I'm going to send you a little video too to just unpack this email you're going to receive and what you do with it and how you get onto the remote learning. What we've tried to do in our end of the school, knowing these are the youngest children, they are not very independent. They are not going to be able to sit down with a laptop, and nor would we want them to, for hours on end and independently go through their work. So what we're sending you are, for the most part, work that's been carefully designed by the teachers that you can then choose when does it fit into your day to do with your child. So you can take a look and say, okay, there's a foundations lesson, there's a read aloud, there is a writing mini lesson, and then an activity to follow. But you don't need, these are asynchronous, you do not need to do it at a particular time. Built in with that, going along with that, the first week there'll be one whole class synchronized meeting with the teachers, so the teachers can connect, the children can feel their personality, the teachers can see the children and talk to the children directly. We will build in the second week knowing that this is a lot, this is a steep learning curve for you and for the children and for the teacher. So we're going to build in the second week, and that's going to depend a lot on your feedback too. The teachers are super excited. I think the hardest thing for me right now is holding them back, because they have so much they want to deliver, and we know we have we've got to get this right, and we don't want to lose you and overwhelm anybody. So what you're going to get is an email with all of this in there and really laid out instructions. We don't want to leave you to try and work this out, or to think, how do I manage 3 children on one device and my own job and my own space, and how's this going to work? So we're trying to work with you to find a way that you can work with kids that really we know can't do this on their own. And we've worked very hard to not be a school that puts children right in front of screens all day when they're very young. So what we're trying to do really reinforces that.
And if I can just add on, and this answers another question that's coming in around the remote learning and how to manage the time for kids while we're working full time. I think we want to ask parents to step back and say, how am I going to make this work for my family, right? What parts of this are most important, and when does it work for my family? But also recognizing there is no need to get it all done in one day. If time is not working for you, go outside, go play, go sit down, play a game, take a hike, ride a bike. I mean, there's so many opportunities for families to connect here. And I think that at the end of the day is really what our goal really should be, is making sure we are mentally healthy, that our children are mentally healthy, and that our families are in.
Oh, did she freeze?
She did.
She did.
She
Okay.
froze. Yeah.
So I'll just poor Polly. She'll be back in a second. Polly's point was a good one about making sure that we are healthy. And as I'm looking through some of the questions that were just posted to the chat to everybody, super helpful. The question there by Jamie about our own anxiety, it's amazing if we actually sat and started to make a list of all the things that make us anxious. We might be surprised at what our list ends up looking like. Whether it's caring for our own health, or caring for our parents, or if it's caring for our children, or if it's, are we going to get this remote learning, or what's going on with our job, and how about the finance? All of a sudden, you start to realize that you've got a list of 10 to 15 things that you're anxious about. And when you start bringing that home and you start carrying that, and then your children start to see that, it's a really important piece for us to talk about. So I'm going to go back to this other question on here, which was about nursery supplies. So maybe Anne or Trudy, you could answer that one too. The question is, my son is in nursery school. Are there supplies that we should prepare for that will be in the email?
Hi there. Yeah, I think I'm trying to type answers and listen at the same time, so it's probably better if I stop typing and actually just listen to. So yeah, in terms of supplies, we're certainly trying to not make it so that you are thinking, I have to leave my house and go and buy anything, or you have to order online, knowing there are big time lags for things. So what we're looking at for nursery, as well as kindergarten, first grade, second grade, are things that you already have in your house. It's paper, it's something to draw or write with. It might be a leftover paper plate, which you can also use as a round circle. I'm giving away one of the really nice activities that one of the teachers has put together. It's things you can find outside. We are not expecting anyone to go out and buy anything special. We're also not assuming that anyone has a printer at home to print out worksheets. We're not a worksheet school. And we also know lots of families don't have a printer, or if you do, it's not always working because it's got a crayon or something stuffed inside it. So don't worry about supplies. There is nothing you should be running out and getting. And the teachers in some of the grades have been thinking really carefully that if there is something they need, like, such as journals, we're looking at whether we can do some kind of safe pickup or drop off for you. But we are not expecting you to go out and get anything.
Great, great, great. All right. I'm trying to read the questions too. These are great. So question again, well, this one's for Polly, but Polly's trying to log back in. I know she's hopefully will be back with us in a second. And let's see here. So they're super nervous about the remote learning and managing that for a kindergartner while I'm working full time and my husband's working around the clock and 2 other kids. So this is a real concern that we are and have been talking about as an admin group and as teachers and as mental health. You know, we've got teachers themselves who are trying to do the remote learning, and they themselves have families with children who are trying to do remote learning. And so what I want to say again, and I'm going to sort of reiterate what Polly said here, is that this is going to take a couple of weeks for us really to hit the ground running, and running in a balanced way. I think there's going to be a lot of learning and a lot of learning. And, you know, one of the expressions is we're going to be building the plane as we're flying it. And I think that's kind of how this is going to feel, and that's what it's going to be like. What I'm really going to encourage all of you to do during this is to reach out to the school or to your contact person at the school and to let them know what difficulties you are having. So if if you're trying to struggle with, we've only got 1 or 2 computers in the house, and we got 5 people who need to use the computers, or one of our computers isn't working, or this remote learning piece is overwhelming me, please reach out to any of us so that we can begin to help you problem solve for that. And we are well aware as educators and as the admin team in the mental health that there are going to be bumps along this road. But what I don't want to do is have those bumps go unnoticed, because if they're unnoticed, we can't do anything about them. So please bring them to us and let us know how we can help. And, you know, like we said in our video, there is no such thing as perfect parenting here. We can have perfect effort, but there's no such thing as perfect parenting. So we're going to make mistakes, and we're going to have to work together as a community to figure out the best ways to solve that.
Hey, Jeff, if I could just add,
Please.
One of the things I think is going to be really helpful is for us to all create routines for our little kids. And that may mean waking up at a certain time and having your 4-year-old try to make their bed. And if they normally were to take a shower before school, or however that works, trying to get into some kind of routine. And if you have 2 working parents at home and we have asynchronous learning going on, you may have some amount of screen time available, i.e. a lesson from Ms. Shagru on how to collect acorns in the yard and arrange them in a circle. And you might be able to set that up for your child, and that might be a time to get your first 15-minute call done of the day. Whereas you are inevitably going to have to come back and help your kid at some point, and you're not going to be able to be too far away. So I think creating routines, and you'll know what you have available to you from us. That will be time that your child will be working on something or trying to create something. And it may be a lesson where they get to read a story and then they're asked to draw a picture. And if you have some crayons available, that might be a nice chunk of time where they're working next to you while you're working on a Zoom call or doing something else with your business. So I think scheduling routines, lunchtime routines, having your kids do some household chores are important and age appropriate. Bedtime routines, sleep patterns, all those things are going to be really important. as we start to go forward, especially true for our older kids as well, who are pretty much now sleeping till noon and are about to have a rude awakening when Monday comes.
Anyone else want to add to that? Any parents want to add to that?
There were some questions about the synchronous sort of play dates and times for kids to get together. Maybe Trudy, you can talk about how we do think that's important and are going to make that happen at all the grade levels.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is really a good demonstration of how we are planning to do this. Is we're going to start slow. So the first week, it's one live group, and we're going to send you at the beginning of the week the day, the time, and the link for your child, so you know exactly when that's going to be, so you can plan around it. And knowing that even with all that planning, there might be one or two of you that say that time doesn't work for me. That's okay. And then we're going to build that up into small groups. It might be small guided reading groups or one-to-one conferencing on the writing that they've done at home, and we're going to build that. But I think as we do that in school, and then you're looking outside of school, well, how do I get my child having more social connections that are not school related? I think you'll get to see some of the tools that we're using and how we're using them, and I think that will help build confidence for families that are not doing this currently with other parents or with relatives, to say, oh wow, this works. Zoom is super easy and our kids can do it. I know there have been some classes already that have had a whole class Zoom play date that the parents themselves set up and invited the teacher to, and for us that was a really great experience, just to see just how many kids do roll away across the floor within the first 2 minutes, and how many are able to sit. And that the ideal play date for nursery is 10 minutes on Zoom, but the children get into it. And I think that as we progress, we will all learn together. We're in a really good position in that there are schools that have been doing this for years, and there are schools that haven't been doing this but have started the last couple of weeks, that we are in contact with so many of them and we're learning from them. And one of the big things we hear is they changed what they did within the first couple of days and then the next couple of days, as the parents learned and the teachers learned. So we've had the benefit of hearing from them before we'd even started, and learning from some of their lessons of things that work. And the biggest lesson is to go carefully and pace ourselves, and expect some bumps, and expect that your first day might not go quite the way that you'd pictured it with the perfect working place and the perfect routine, but we aim for the best, and then we will build up to where we want to go, knowing that it's okay to adjust as we go.
I see that Polly's back. Hi, Polly.
Hi, sorry about that. Tech issues. There's always something, right? Again, flexibility at its finest. Trying.
We'll adjust and adapt.
So I'm seeing some questions, but I'm sure I've missed a few. Jeff, are you privy to those?
I am now, because I think most people are posting them to the entire piece. I want to talk quickly to. There's a question from Jordan that says, I hope it's okay that I'm reading this. This may be premature, but I'm concerned about the anxiety our children might have as we come out of this situation, because we will have been in our houses for so long. They know that we're staying home and nearly everything is closed, canceled, so that we can stay safe. How will we help them believe that it's safe again to leave home? Did not want this to get lost. I think it's a great question. Polly, do you want me to leave that in your hands, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to just add, and then Jeff would love your input. So hi, Jordan, first of all. Miss seeing you and your cute boys. I think you bring up a really great question that we're all just kind of beginning to scratch the surface on. Obviously trying to support while kids are home, but recognizing so many of these kids and adults do have issues with anxiety and concerns initially, and those that didn't may in the future. How can we as adults, convey to them that it is safe? I think, again, it's just being a role model, and, recognizing that your job is to keep these kids safe, and you wouldn't put them in a situation that you thought was dangerous. So, you've got fabulous relationships with your boys, and I'm sure they will trust you implicitly, but I think you bring up a question for the bigger community, and one we'll all be grappling with.
Yeah, I think it's a really great question. And you may be accurate in that it may be premature. I mean, I guess we do have to wait and see. But at the same time, I think an awareness that it may happen is super important, because that awareness then gives us the opportunity to pay better attention to our child's behaviors. And I think it's those behaviors that are going to indicate to us whether or not they're having anxieties over this. I am certainly concerned with the amount of probable OCD symptoms that are going to arise in germs with many of our students and with many of our population after this. And it can only make sense because that's what we've just now switched completely over to. But this awareness of your child's behaviors becomes important, because that gives you an opportunity as a parent to sit down on the floor and have this conversation. And it's not a conversation at first to tell them that they're okay and that they're wrong. It's a conversation to just listen, right? So this is an opportunity for you to sit down on the floor, hear what they're having to say, validate them, which doesn't mean agree with them. It just means understand and empathize why they might be anxious, and then start to have a conversation about what you're doing as the parent. So you're role modeling how it's safe, what makes it safe, that you're going out. And children take their lead from us. They really, really do. So if we are going out and we are letting them know that we feel safe by going out and taking them with us, that is a huge step. But I do think that there might be some kids that really do struggle with this transition. And in those cases, those are going to be the times when I hope you can let the school know, or let Polly know, or let one of the mental health people know, and we will start to work with you on a more one-to-one basis to help you with your child in that.
Jeff, I'd also add, this is a good time where parents, when we're starting to think about the comeback of kids, where parents can say, Mr. Rohde and Miss Davis have done everything they can to make sure that the school is now safe and clean. Back if we didn't think it was ready. And so that's a nice security blanket that we can roll out for those kids.
Agreed. And what I'd love to be able to do too, just for the parents, and Adam, I'm kind of throwing this at you right now, but I'd love to have, if the parents find this helpful, to have more of these forums where we get back on together as a group. And we even ask you parents, what have you been doing? What have you been saying? What have you found to be working in your home? So that, again, we can answer a lot of these questions as a community rather than just one or two people telling you.
Agreed.
Okay, good.
There's a question on there from Julie. Julie, thank you. Just about families that are not in their own home right now. I'd love it, Jeff and Polly, if you could talk to that one, because I think that is a concern for quite a few of our families that were away or chose to travel and haven't been able to get back, or have decided that a better place to be is in a second home or with a grandparent. So I'd love to hear from you about how to support children that are not in their own space with their own belongings around them, where it becomes even harder to create that routine and that safe space.
Yeah, I don't see the question. Is it on to everyone, or was it sent to you?
Let me find out.
I see it.
It's about a family in Florida who are down with relatives, and they're kind of stuck there, and they're doing the remote learning there. Kids aren't at home in their bedrooms.
Yeah.
So I'll just jump in quickly to start and say, I think for many families that are away and choose to be in a different place, I think, it's a little bit of a different feeling. They may still feel like they're a little bit on vacation. This is our spring break, ironically. But I think, recognizing that it's okay to go out and take a walk in the sunshine if you're lucky enough to be in Florida, or in a different venue. But recognizing that we do need to also follow the federal guidelines and spend most of our day at home. So it's going to feel somewhat similarly in terms of, being locked into a small space. But I think a lot of the things that kids are trying to occupy their time with, whether it be watching a movie, reading a book, doing some coloring. I think you're grappling with some of the same things that parents at home are grappling with, right? How am I going to occupy the day for my child? So I encourage all parents, I mean, myself, I've had to get a little creative and sort of go back to being a kid in terms of what do you want to do? Do you want to go for a bike ride? All right, let's go. Just kind of doing some things that you might not normally engage in.
Yeah, and if I can add to that a little bit, I think not being at home where you don't have the comforts of your own bedroom or the consistency with which you're used to, I think Adam's comment earlier about making sure that your children follow a schedule is super, super important. Getting up, whether it's the same, breakfast routine or the same school day routine on Monday through Fridays, but following that same routine becomes incredibly important. At the end of the school day, the virtual school day, I think that's where parents really do need to become really creative. And this is why I think as a community, we should come together and throw out ideas. Obviously, if you Google, family activities during COVID-19, you're going to get thousands of articles that have different ideas. We have on our Country Day website, we've linked a lot of some of the better ones. So Polly and Laura and I have looked through a lot of them, and these are the ones that we feel have been the most informative. But becoming really creative is super important. So family time becomes important, family game time, getting outside if you can, I think is really important. And finding ways for kids to socially connect is super important, because one of my concerns for kids is more of the social isolation, which is different than social distancing. And so I just worry about too much time alone in front of the computer or in a room. So those are things that I begin to worry about. But then again, same dinner routine, same bath routine, same bedtime routine, and fall into that routine so that that becomes their new norm for wherever they may be.
And I would just add, for the routine piece of that, it's obviously going to be different nursery through 2 than it would be for middle school. But for those of you who are displaced, maybe you can involve your children in creating that dedicated workspace, we're calling it, so that they have some input in what that might look like. Obviously, it needs to work for everybody in the home, but that might be some way to get them involved in a creative way that gives them some ownership. And again, sticking to that routine.
Great. Trudy, there was an email in there about, or something in there about, you had an email noted, Trudy's email noted an 8 a.m. daily email to parents with the day's communication. Jackie also noted, did you see that?
Yeah, and I'm very happy to talk to that. There's a couple of different pieces to that. That is our current plan. And know from what I'm saying that our 8 a.m. email, that's when you receive it. You do not need to open it at that time. This is an asynchronous piece. You can open that whatever time works for you. So you might say, I'm going to set my middle schooler off because they need to be on and going at that point. I'm going to open yours later. But we are already considering whether we do this on day 1 and then we start to send that email the night before. I've spoken to quite a few parents who said if I could preview that the night before, that would be really helpful for me. So we're really looking at doing that in the lower elementary and the upper elementary too. What kind of time works for you, so the teachers can get it ready, because they want to obviously build on what happened the day before, but you can preview it and see and plan your day, knowing that you've got a little bit of time without your child to look through what's going to be expected the next day. So don't worry about, I need to put all 3 of my children on the computer at 8 a.m. That's not how it's going to be, and we're already adjusting that to try and work with what parents are feeling.
Yeah, the upper elementary is the night before now, and I think you're going to see more divisions moving in that direction. And then just a reminder, we're going to send out pretty much weekly surveys to you all for feedback. So as these surveys start to roll out, feel free to write in. We need the emails the night before rather than the morning of. And as I said, we'll course correct along the way. And those will come out, we think, weekly for the first few weeks that we're doing remote learning.
Jordan, I don't know if Jordan, if you're on this call still, if you are and you'd be comfortable, you don't have to. You mentioned something about an app called House Party. which is a social connecting app.
Yes, and actually another kindergarten mom introduced us to this as well, and so we were able to have kind of one of those virtual play dates with several of our children. But it is free. It's on iPhone. I'm not sure if it's on Android, and it's called House Party. And again, the kids can see each other, and Bennett just said, and play together. He's right next to me. Yeah. And Harrison, sorry guys, please be quiet. I'm going to speak quickly. Anyhow, so sorry, it's free, which, you know, Zoom for a call that's longer than I think 15 minutes, you end up having to pay for a subscriber or something like that. So it avoids that difficulty.
Yeah, it works. The only thing with House Party is it limits the numbers, whereas Zoom, you can have 20 kids. You can't have 20 kids on House Party.
Has Zoom changed some of its, I don't know, some of its limits now during this time? Is that different?
Yeah, I think you can subscribe for free at this point.
Danielle Robinson, Miles's mom, is saying that Skype is free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know a lot of the older students in the middle school already use House Party and connect on House Party. So Jordan, thank you for sharing that, because I've already had for my second grader a couple of other parents reach out and try and set up some House Party groups. But yeah, the older children are already on that and they love that. So I think it's only reasonable in this time that it starts to whittle down to the younger ones. And again, like anything online where the kids are chatting, we just want to be aware of, you know, the conversations that they're having. But I think with our younger ones, that's always the case anyway.
Doug is on this call. I'd love to hear from Doug just for a second. Doug, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but Doug is part of our tech department, and I don't know anything about the levels of tech or safety. And Doug, maybe you know more about House Party versus Skype versus Zoom versus whatever in terms of safety for the children.
Yeah, like Adam said, there are some limitations out there as far as like how many you can put on at one time. Zoom's a lot safer. If everybody looks up in the lower left-hand corner of their window, they'll see a green lock, so it's encrypted, first of all. So that's the biggest part of safety. The app House Party is available on both platforms, but I would be trusting more of what's secure versus just randomly out there, because when you get an app off the App Store or Google Play, you got to really look at the fine print. You don't know where that data is going. You don't know who's using it. So I would just steer away from those for now and just trust the tools that we're going to give to you right now.
If you're on the Google Suite platform, Google Hangout Meets is a safe, protected way to do it. Has very easy click and play, and is downloadable for free.
Great.
So if I can just add, I think making sure kids are connected, really important, and the teachers really have been brainstorming some really creative ways to do that. But you know, there's nothing wrong with going back to writing a letter to grandma, right? The U.S. mail is still working for us, so going back to writing an email, going back to writing a letter, an old-fashioned letter, sending them a picture. You know, again, it just helps kids feel connected and that they are connecting with others.
Yeah, and truthfully, the population that we're worrying about the most right now is our elderly population, because they're being isolated more than the rest of us. So a handwritten letter or a picture that's been drawn not only is good for our children in terms of acts of kindness and acts of goodness, but it's also really wonderful for our parents and grandparents.
Great.
Any other questions? Or I have a question then, if everyone's in terms of these forums, are there specific questions that you would love us to answer? Is there a direction that you'd like us to perhaps focus on in these forums? If so, would love to hear them. We could even start talking about some of them now, or we can certainly plan, Polly and Laura and I can certainly plan for the next ones, maybe next week or the week after, and have them more guided and structured. Or do you prefer an open town hall type style?
So I'll just fill a little space there by saying I think it really is important for us to continue to connect with you all as parents, and this is one vehicle and venue. But obviously our email addresses were on that letter that we sent out. So please reach out to us, reach out to division heads, reach out to your child's teacher. You've got a lot of different people that are here to support and talk through or I don't want to say commiserate, but just rally around, the fact that we are all in this together and we will get through it. So let's really rely on this amazing GCDS community.
So Elizabeth, I agree with you. I'd love to hear ideas from other parents too. In fact, I think the power of this forum is really the power of the community and the parents. My son now is 21. I don't have a nursery through 2 anymore, but my son went to nursery at Greenwich Country Day School and first grade at Country Day and second grade at Country Day and all the way through 9th. And if Adam had only had a high school back then, he would have stayed all the way. So, but, one of the joys I found in this community was being able to talk with other parents about how did you solve this and what are you dealing with and what are you seeing? So I'd love to hear from other parents, even on this call, what kind of things that they're doing with their children, with what's working.
So I love that Cosmic Kids.
I'll just.
Sorry, somebody else jumped in there.
I was gonna say I'll speak really quick. One thing there's a lot of things not working, but one thing working is we have these massive Post-it notes, and I have 3 kids, and I just have them. Even during this spring break, I have them taking turns making up whatever schedule for the day they want to do. And it can really pretty much include whatever it is that they, bake or ride bikes or whatever it is. And so I think that maybe it seems like they feel some control. They get really excited to take turns to do that.
Very cool.
That's cool.
Love it.
I love that idea. It's similar to that. I made a list of chores, and the kids were at chore time each day on our schedule on the kitchen wall. They get to pick a chore from the list. Again, I think to your point, Jamie, it's giving them some control in a world that currently they have no control over. So that it's predictable. This is when we do a chore, but I get to choose what it's going to be, and they choose their chore. Nobody wants to clean the toilets, but they are happy to pick from the other chores that are on the list. So I love that idea of the Post-its. I think that's great.
Polly, you were going to say something before.
Sorry, I was just going to add a comment to Julie's topic there about Cosmic Kids. So I've seen that, and I know a number of teachers and some parents are really interested in that. So I'm hopeful that we can put together some more sort of take your ideas as well as some of the things we think are great, and be able to push those out either through your classroom teacher or through our mental health team here. So keep them coming.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that, Julia. That's cool. Okay. So just in terms of like little ideas that we can plan for in the future. So if we start thinking about exercise just as one example, and obviously we all know that exercise, sleep, diet, major important pieces in all of our lives, right? And if we can take care of those 3, we've taken care of an awful lot. But what do we do if we are really homebound and it's bad weather outside and we can't get our kids outside? This forum could start talking about what are some great fun activities that we can do inside the house that will get kids exercising. So even something like, hey, we're going to clean this room. We're going to clean it as fast as we can. We're going to do it speed demon wise. And we add a speed piece to it. Of course, you won't get it as clean as you'd like, but maybe you add a little exercise to what's going on. Maybe you say, let's go play a balance game. Let's go see how long you can stand on one foot. Right? Now we're going to sit on one foot and close our eyes. Now we're going to stand on one foot and touch our fingers to our nose. Now we're going to, and you start timing these things, but what you're doing is you're activating all the core muscles by doing these little fun games. And so you're getting them to exercise through these little fun games. Hey, let's count how quickly it will take you to lay down, get back up, lay back down again. right? And so you're making them do a burpee, basically, but it's through an exercise or through fun activities. So little things like this that we can all come together and have ideas, all of a sudden you have a list of 15 or 20 things that you can get your child to be doing in terms of exercise. If you want to reach out to Polly, Laura, and me, we will give you some of these things. Or again, if you Google it, I'm sure you'll come up with some of them as well. But this is how I see the forum going. Oh, here's another.
Yeah, somebody put in having a poster board where, you know, each day they fill in what they've actually done or accomplished, how to fix my bike, how to do the laundry. Great life skill there. Finished a book, ran a couple miles, right? Things to really help kids feel empowered, right? As Trudy and Jeff were saying, that need to feel needed and how they are important to the daily schedule of your own family.
Yeah, and I'll give you two other quick little things that I love to do. So whenever I've worked with anybody, I always have them make a list of their 20 favorite activities, right? And have them write it down. And if you have a nursery schooler, you write it down. But what are their 20 favorite things to do? And it might be coloring, you know, it might be board games, whatever it might be. When you have that list of 20, if your child ever says to you, I don't know what to do, I'm so bored, you can go, hey, guess what I have? I have this list of 20 things that you love to do. Let's pick one or two of them and let's do them. So having a list of activities that they have pre-planned and thought about with you, that you now have that list, just takes you out of that even when you're stressed going, I don't know, just go figure it out. Versus, hey, let's pull out your list and let's pick one or two from that list. And the other thing I love to do as a family is get a little jar, have your family sit together and come up with 20 to 30 family activities. It might be play Monopoly. It might be, I don't know, watch this Netflix thing together. But whatever it is, and then every night you pull one of those out, and every night you do that one thing as a family.
Right.
Right? And so it's something to look forward to. It's part of the schedule. It's family-based. It's community-based. So those are two other different little pieces that you can start thinking about.
Love that. Somebody was commenting about the GCDS Instagram. Tim Helstein is putting some things on there. Somebody mentioned he has a great tip for indoor exercise using a deck of cards. So again, I'm sure that's quite creative, and kids would think it hilarious if parents jumped into that as well.
Mm-hmm. Video play dates, yeah. Okay. Any other questions that we can answer for you?
Well, you may have a few as soon as this call ends, right? So please reach out to Trudy and Jeff, Laura, myself, Adam. We're all here to support you as we continue to say.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any questions, drop me an email and I can either answer on the email or we set up a time to chat on the phone. Sometimes I don't have an answer yet. You know, we might have to get through the first few days and run things out, but sometimes just talking it through with you makes us both thinking along the same lines, and it can be reassuring for both of us. So yeah, send me an email, and if you need to chat or you have a simple question, we can quickly set up a time to talk.
Good. Okay, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Hang in there.
Yep. All right. We'll say goodbye for now.